sitting in the mess. And I think that that's a part that I choose to, in some cases, take the hard route, right? And the reason why is alluding to what I mentioned earlier is that not only is that where the fun is, but it's kind of like holding the line on, yeah, I'm not gonna just hit the easy button.
Welcome to Not Quite a Podcast, where we talk with founders, marketers, writers, builders, and designers about life, business, marketing, and more. And sometimes we even say something smart. When that happens, we take the best of our talks, tidbits, and wisdom and post it here for our listeners.
I have the most fun where I usually deliver the most value, from brick and mortar, like I owned a tire shop, we did trucks and cars, to now digital. It always comes down to the same thing, and that, right? And it's experience. It's just client experience, and trying to deliver value with that as well as any other solution or problem we solve.
I think when we talked, you were talking a lot about one of the things that you do is help creative teams. It almost sounded like you were like a creative therapist. Am I right in this? Like that's kind of how you...
Yeah, well, I love that you say that, because I that's a big thing for us. And in fact, the word therapist does come up often. So the fact that you said that is freaking awesome. Yeah, I would say that for us as a design practice, we tend to make it really, really clear from the beginning that, yes, design strategy is where our center is, and we can break that down a little bit further down the line. The idea is that for us, our greatest value is being able to sit right next to that seat, not further downstream where many design firms have lived for a while. And that is, once all of the broad strategy has been established and decided on, then it becomes more of an execution process, right? And we don't like that. We find that where we deliver the greatest value is upstream, sitting at that table where we can really be not only a sounding board to the person that has to make that decision for a transformation or a new campaign, and how that all plays out once design strategy and design is executed on. So that is where the therapy comes in. And it's important to note that if we have the experience from a business perspective, not just from a design perspective, but really how the professional that's sitting in front of us, how we solve their problem and how we solve the company problem. Because those are two totally separate things, particularly when they have cross-functional teams that are dysfunctional, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. And we're very much the same way. In fact, we're next year, 25 years in business. So we're getting ready to like kind of reposition, focus in on what we're doing and who we're doing it for and why we love what we do. And that idea there is a pattern that we're kind of seeing in ourselves. Like we work really close with the founder or the family or whoever's like the pioneer, whoever's leading the business. And they typically are wearing multiple hats. So yes, there might be a marketing team. Typically in our case, it might be, a couple people. But usually the founder has, business problems they need to solve. They've got a vision and a goal and they're trying to get somewhere. They don't necessarily know how to translate that into marketing or creative or brand speak and put it to action, but they know they need to go from here to there and they got to find a team or lead a team to get there. In some cases, like we're doing everything from branding all the way through to, SEO, GEO, whatever. And in some cases, we're coming alongside and the brand is already established. They already have a beautiful website. There's no reason to, throw the baby out with the bathwater, if you will.
Right.
And start over. It's just more like, all right, so somebody had this beautiful idea, beautiful pictures and everything like that, and had an idea, but then they didn't actually get any traction with it, and we can help with that too. So yeah, I totally resonate with what you're saying and how you're looking at it. I love that challenge.
Right, the hard stuff. Isn't that where the real value is? Especially at a time where things are getting easier, so to speak, right? On the execution side. So no, that's the thing. That's the hard work. It's what I like to call also like sitting in the mess, right? And I'll tell you, like, for example, what you do, where you go deeper on the marketing side, we tend to synthesize a lot of that. So what happens is if we're working with a mid-sized team that does have a couple of departments, as opposed to just a founder that has all the functions happening in their head, is that, we get to sit at the table to interpret, make sure that what we're receiving from every team is actually what they intend, and understanding that every department has They have different KPIs, man. And we can say that we're all going after the same thing, but are we really? Right. And making sure that we understand that to then have a design strategy that works. And it's not about the pretty stuff. Well, that can be subjective and we'll figure out what that is, but this is the part, right? But I will say about sitting in the mess. And I think that that's a part that I choose to, in some cases, take the hard route. Right. And the reason why is alluding to what I mentioned earlier is that not only is that where the fun is, but it's kind of like holding the line on, yeah, I'm not going to just hit the easy button because it's there, man. Because when you do sit in the mess, what you catch that the algorithm will not is all that data that only you can capture by, for example, only you know the stress that this marketing leader is under and what the politics are internally. And they either just joined 30 days ago, they have a 90-day plan that started without them. And that algo is going to give you, if you rely only on the easy button, you're going to miss the most important part of it all. So I sit in the mess. I do the research old school as a preliminary step to make sure that I'm being honest about what I received and how I would approach it. And then let's do strategy sparring with AI. Absolutely. I'd be silly not to, but it's grounded on something meaningful, not something that sounds smart,
Yeah. Sitting in the mess. I mean, this is something I've been wrestling with a lot. And one of the things that I have found over the years, 20 plus years doing this, is that a lot of times we come into the room thinking that everyone has had the same experience and that they know the same things that we know. And so then we don't say things because we feel like we're just repeating them for no reason. And I think that's so far off. You have a very different life than I did. You know what I mean?
Yes.
We might be in the same realm. We might be working with some of the same clients, doing some of the same things, but you have a very different life experience than I have. And there's something that we both could bring to the table that the others, the other side of the table doesn't know. I love you're saying sitting in the mess is one of the things where I kind of took that for granted. And I kind of felt like everyone was doing that. And I started to look around. I'm like, I don't think so. In fact,
more
with the last couple of clients that have come to us, and actually I would say the vast majority of the clients that come to us, they come to us with a mess that another agency or somebody else left. And they're like, they didn't do this, this, and this. And verbatim, a recent client that just signed on last month, they said this about their agency. They're like, I feel like I have a very expensive admin assistant that I have to tell them what to do. And that's just not how I expect an agency to operate. And I'm like, yeah, I don't expect that either. And that's kind of where it started to click from. I'm all about it.
And
Jump into
what? Isn't that what happens though? Yeah, exactly. But it's because of the race to the middle that the conversation I keep hearing is that, agencies that leaned too heavily into the tools and where technology has taken us is causing that, right? Because again, and not to hammer it with Thor's hammer here, but it really is about sitting there and saying, okay, this is the part that I need to remain difficult, challenging. I don't need to make this part easier.
I mean, the reward for being an entrepreneur is you get problems. That's what you get. And the reward for solving problems is you get to find more problems. It's so addicting.
You have to do
it. And it's just, it's a mess. It really is. But I'm here and I'm doing it. And I think because from a very young age, I had my first business card when I was 14, right? My dad had businesses. It was ingrained into me. I always saw more. I always looked at the mess you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was just in there. Innately, it was just part of my DNA and not something that, the more I pull back and look at it, not everyone looks at it that way. And
not at all.
And absolutely, here's the thing is if you flip the table around and you say, well, why don't people do that? Right? Let's flip it around and say, why don't people do it? And I can see the advantages to not doing that because there is it's not my job, right? I said, we're going to get to this metric. I said, we're going to get you this many leads. I said, we're going to drive this much revenue, blah, blah, blah. I don't care if they're terrible customers or terrible guests or your return rate goes through the roof. You know what I mean? Not my problem. Right. So it shields you from having to worry about those things. And as long as you keep hitting your metrics and you keep getting more and more clients, then I guess who cares, right? I care. And I want clients, again, I said I was going to be negative here and I keep coming back to positive. I want long-term clients. And we have that. We have clients we've had for decades, and there's that innate trust that's there. And there is also just the ability to see what's coming next and be able to work on it and help them grow.
You have these decades with these clients, right? So the proof is in the pudding. You've seen the result of which is obviously the way you've always been, which is huge and a huge advantage. And some people are learning it along the way. But then the thing is, you see how they overuse the term, obviously, partnership. What does it really mean after all, right? So it's overused in the sense that, everyone can say they're looking for partners, but then they don't behave like partners. And then that's exactly what, to your point, partners do certain things. There's certain things a partner will do. And it's very different than having a client, right? And a partner can be a client, but a client isn't always a partner. And usually it's our fault. I don't think that there's a client that would go into it saying, I hope this is just a slam, bam, thank you, ma'am relationship, because they want a winner, right? So if they have a winning a partner in an agency, then the natural thing for any human is to say, this worked. Not only did I get what I needed, I feel I'm cared for there. I want more of that. And that's just what's going to happen, right? But I think it's just the honesty of looking at what creating partnerships really means and what the cost is and being okay with that cost so that in the end, you also get what you're looking for. And when we're talking about it here, it sounds like, oh yeah, well, sure, that's pretty obvious. Well, not that common. And that's what I think I work hard for with, along with my partner, Alex, is say, okay, but is this that we agreed on, this scope, has anything changed since? And we're not talking about scope creep here. We're talking about our own evaluation of, well, look, we're 4 weeks into this. And I'll tell you, we should have a very honest conversation about this. And there's some of the scope is going to have to change. And if we have to eat some of it to make sure that in the end we get a case study, then that's the cost we have to be willing to take, and that's just, we have to be honest with ourselves, man. And it's a two-way street. We want value out of our relationships with clients, and we claim partnership. Well, we're going to have to eat some stuff. Of course, we have to be responsible about how we manage our projects and our revenue and our budgets. But I am saying that we need to go into every project with the idea that we're going to uncover something. Let's work that into our mindset, and that we're not going to leave stones unturned or leave the client with the feeling that, you know what, they could have told me something and they didn't. And have them think that it was because it wasn't an item on the list. And that I don't want that.
Yeah. I mean, the contract's there for the worst case scenario, right? It's for the end. Like you're planning for the death of something, essentially, is what that's. And I mean, I've said this before. It being like the first time I had a kickoff call, like this is when we are going to like each other the most because we're going to run through problems. There's going to be things where we don't see eye to eye, and we're going to have to seek alignment. So like we're at the beginning of a brand new relationship. And I think that's where the commitment comes into it. And so how do you build trust to that? And one of the ways that we've done that is that I can tell you, hey, Jay, we're going to get started and it's going to take us this much time to get through these things and blah, blah, blah. And it's, give us a good 90 days to we're really into everything or whatever it might be. And then we'll see some real progress and see where we're at.
You're earning that relationship. And that's how you earn trust. When we talk about trust though, there's a certain humility, I think, that is kind of part of the equation for us. We used to walk into the room and feel like we were the smartest people in the room. And that's not necessarily the case, right? But there's an idea that we had something that was a different language to clients. These guys have this special sauce. And now we just naturally have that care that you talked about, that attention to earning trust, are in a very nice position right now, with everything going on. So I think that's a big thing.
Thanks for listening to Not Quite a Podcast. To hear new episodes, view the archive, or find out more about being a guest on the show, visit notquiteapodcast.com.